What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my unit review and builds guide for Duo Mark, Young Hector, Young Eliwood and also Young Rebecca. So Duo Mark is easily the star of this banner, having this amazing duo skill and also this really good weapon in Total War Tome. So this gives him -1 special cooldown, and at start of turn, he can inflict the following status to the closest foes within 5 spaces of Duo Mark and also the foes that are within 2 spaces of the target foe. So he can debuff the opponent for -5 to all of their stats, the Sabotage status effect and also the Stalled status effect. So the Sabotage status effect is basically like the foe penalty doubler, but it is going to be present on the opponent. And it can actually stack up with the foe penalty doubler if you get the status effect on your own unit and they have got the Sabotage status effect. So Sabotage status effect is really good for just doubling down on the debuffs and getting more of it in the combat. And Stalled status can definitely mess up units like Yuri, Legendary Sigurd, Brave Salif, all of those units who can get the extra 1 movement, and also the Flying Beast units of course. And in sort of combat, if Duo Mark is at 25% HP or above, then he can get -5 debuff to all stats of the opponent in combat and also gets a guaranteed follow-up attack. And if there is a stat penalty active on any kind of foe within 2 spaces of the target, then Duo Mark is able to get the half tempo effect, basically the null guard effect, which makes it pretty easy to trigger the icebergs. So overall, with this kind of weapon, Duo Mark is able to support his allies really well with the Sabotage and the Stalled status and also the debuffs. And the Sabotage skill is really good because it is going to be counting the highest debuff among the foe and the foe that are within 2 spaces of them. So you're going to be able to get a lot of in-combat debuff on top of it, which is going to be making the combat of Duo Mark really solid. As for the stats, Duo Mark does have base 44 attack with a super boon and also really high resistance at base 46. So these icebergs are definitely going to be hitting really hard, and the null guard effect is going to be really helpful in triggering these icebergs as it is going to be a 2 cooldown special. He does come with Remote Mirror as his slotty skill, which can give him +10 resistance and +7 attack in the player phase and also 30% damage reduction from foe's first attack. He also has a new line of skill in the tier 4 version of the Sabotage skill. So he has got Sabotage Attack Resistance 3, which is going to be able to debuff any kind of foe that has got less visible resistance than Mark for -6 attack and resistance, and also to the foes that are adjacent to the other foes. So this is going to be a really good debuffing tool, and it does use the visible resistance of Mark, which is really high. And then it does have the foe penalty doubler effect for the attack and resistance of the opponent. So again, you're able to get even more in-combat debuffs to the opponent's attack and resistance, which is absolutely fantastic for the combat of Mark. And because Mark is a duo unit, they do have an amazing duo skill in inflicting isolation, guard, and special cooldown +2 on foes within 3 rows and 3 columns centered on Duo Mark. So being able to inflict this kind of isolation and guard effect, as well as the special cooldown +2, is going to be really good for Summoner Duels, and Duo Mark is going to be a top tier unit in Summoner Duels for use in Summoner Duels Ranked and also in Summoner Duels S. So Duo Mark is definitely going to be a really good unit for there, and also for Aether Raids defense and for Aether Raids offense. In Aether Raids, you're not going to be able to easily use this duo skill, but still in Aether Raids defense, you could use Duo Mark and just use the duo hindrance, as Duo Mark is going to be enabling that. So this duo button is going to be really amazing, along with all of the great things that Duo Mark does bring with his weapon and with his stats. So I would say that Duo Mark is easily a top tier infantry mage with this kind of support and also with these stats, and also having this duo button, which is definitely going to be helping you a lot in Summoner Duels as a competitive game mode. For building up Duo Mark on a budget, you can definitely give them Fury so that you can just have the extra visible resistance for the Sabotage skill, and you can also run some other skills like Attack Resistance Ideal as the Sacred Seal, and also run Special Spiral 4, which is going to be helping you pierce through the damage reduction, which is going to be really amazing. And this could be run with Iceberg or even with Glimmer. So basically, if you run this with Glimmer, then you're going to be able to trigger Glimmer on the double attack, and Special Spiral 4 is going to be going off and piercing through the damage reduction. So it could be run with either of those specials, and Iceberg with Special Spiral 4 can be run with Attack Resistance Unity in the slotty so that you can have a dual phase slotty skill and Attack Res Oath can also be run so that you can have the mobility with the teleportation. So Canto Control is definitely pretty nice for Summoner Duels, but if you're running something else for Slotsy skill, then the Oath 4 skill is going to be a pretty good option. Speaking of good options for Slotsy, Panic Smoke 4 is also a really good option, and you can definitely run Still Water so that you can have the visible resistance for the Sabotage skill, and the Sabotage skill is going to be giving you the debuffs, and like I said, the Panic Smoke's Foe Penalty Doubler status effect is going to be stacking up with the Sabotage effect on the enemy, because you have got the Foe Penalty Doubler status effect on your own unit as well as the enemy in form of the Sabotage status which you can inflict. So Panic Smoke 4 is going to be a pretty wonderful Slotsy skill that you can run on Duo Mark, and then Time Pulse 4 is also an option so that you can always have a pre-charge special, and you can also run a finish skill and attack resistance finish so that you can get the true damage as well as the healing. And finally, if you do end up plus and merging Mark, then he's going to be an amazing unit for Arena, being able to score high because of being a duo unit, and you can simply run Special Spiral 4 and Attack Res Oath 4 as the Slot B and Slotsy skill for the Arena usage. Young Hector this time around is an Axe Armor unit with absolutely amazing weapon and Valiant War Axe. So this gives him -1 special cooldown, and at the start of combat, if he's at or above 25% HP, he can inflict -6 attack and defense debuff on the foe, as well as the guard effect, and he can get 30% damage reduction on the opponent's attacks in the combat. And if the unit is within 3 spaces of an ally, then he can inflict even more attack debuff on the opponent, depending on double of their maximum special cooldown count, subtracted by 12. So the lower cooldown of the enemy special, the more attack debuffs he's going to be able to get. So getting these kinds of extreme attack debuffs on the opponent is going to be making it so that Hector is going to be really bulky, especially with his stat spread with that base 47 defense and base 41 resistance, which does have a super boon. So Young Hector is really min-max and also has really good attack stat at base 45, and he's going to be a top tier far save armor unit with these stats and also with the Valiant War Axe. And Ostia's Heart definitely helps him be a really amazing far save tank because it does give him the distant counter effect and also has even more attack and defense debuff on the opponent, and he can heal up 7 HP in the combat per hit, so that is really good for the self sustain. And he does come with a new special that is inertable to all of the armor units except for the staff armors in Armored Beacon. So this is a 3 cooldown special which is going to be boosting your special damage by 40% of your defense. So it's basically like a weaker bonfire, and this is only useful for the ranged matchups. So it is going to be giving you 40% damage reduction if unit or foe special is ready or triggered before or during the combat, which is pretty much when you want to have this kind of damage reduction. And this damage reduction is not pierceable by Deadeye, Lethality, or Sublime Heaven or any of those specials. So that is extremely good, and this is going to be a really good thing for a lot of range armors which currently run Hardy Fighter. So at least with this special, they're going to be able to have the damage reduction in their special, and it is also a damaging special, so it doesn't need to be run with Hardy Fighter. In fact, this is an alternate option that you can run instead of running a defensive special with Hardy Fighter. So of course, a lot of units are going to be able to make amazing use of this special, but range armor units are definitely the standout, which are going to be benefiting a lot from this special. Just to go over some of the good users of Armored Beacon, we do have Fomortes, who can run Beast Follow-Up in the slot B instead of running Hardy Fighter with a defensive special, and Beast Follow-Up is going to be making it easy for you to transform. And Brave Edelgard as a far save tank can also make amazing use of this, and any kind of range armor unit with good enough defense like Winter and Net, for example, is going to be making amazing use of the special for the damage reduction. So this is going to be a special that we're going to be seeing quite a lot in like Aether Raids offense or in Summoner Duels, and this is a really solid option, especially on these kinds of really bulky units who really love the damage reduction, and they can just run Armored Beacon instead of running Hardy Fighter with a defensive special. Young Hector with this special, with Ostia's Heart and his weapon, is easily one of the best far save tanks present in the game right now, and easily a top tier unit. So Young Hector is a really good unit himself, but if you do get multiple copies of him, then he can be foddered off for Armored Beacon and Vengeful Fighter 4 at the same time. And the Vengeful Fighter 4 skill does give you even more attack debuff. So the fact that Young Hector can debuff the opponent's attack by a lot, has this kind of damage reduction in his weapon and also with Armored Beacon, makes him a really solid far save tank who can even survive units like Duochrome despite the weapon triangle disadvantage and the effective damage, and that just goes to show you that how good Young Hector is as a far-safe tank. As for the builds of Young Hector, there's really not much you have to do. His base kit is pretty perfect. You just need to give him swap and a sacred seal like Steady Breath or even defense res form, and he can be an amazing unit in something like Summoner Duels as your far-safe tank because of the reasons which I mentioned before. Definitely a top tier far-safe tank right there, and if you do use him in arena at plus 10 merge instead of ordering him for Armored Beacon, then he could be used there as well because he's going to be scoring pretty high as a armor unit who can score 200 BST, and then if you run the 300 SP passives, you're going to be scoring like 205 BST. Young Eliwood is a Sword Cavalier this time around as well, with Fury War Sword as his preferred weapon. So this gives him -1 special cooldown, and if he initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can get extra stats to his attack, speed, defense, and resistance depending on the positive bonus status available on him, excluding these stat bonuses of course ×3. And this is pretty easy to get because with Inborn Idealism you're able to get the Null Panic and the bonus doubler, and you just need something else to have the visible status effect. So this is going to be really easy to get, and this can go all the way up to 17 to all of his stats, which is going to be really solid. And he does have full null follow-up built into this weapon, and also 40% damage reduction from foe's first attack. So this is a really solid weapon honestly that can give him a lot of stats and does have null follow-up, so he doesn't really have to run a flow skill in his slot B and can just run a near trace skill. And speed defense near trace is going to be the slot B skill, which is going to be perfect for Young Eliwood with his stat spread of 45 base attack and 46 base speed, which is really amazing. He also has speed defense Clash 4, which is a new skill available, and Inborn Idealism is his exclusive slot C skill, which does need a beast ally or dragon ally on your team, and if that condition is met, then you can give +6 attack and speed and defense to yourself and the ally with the highest attack stat for 1 turn, as well as bonus doubler status effect and the null panic status effect as well. So this is pretty much like Vision of Arcadia 2, except you don't really get the Canto as a status. So he can function just like Legendary Eliwood for supporting his allies, and because he's not a wind legendary unit, he could be used in any kind of season in Aether Raids offense, and that is going to be working out fine. And he could be used in Summoner Duels as well, and he can be used in Summoner Duels as well for a raid boss team composition. And you can actually use like both Legendary Eliwood and Young Eliwood on your team compositions in Summoner Duels S, and basically have like 2 raid boss teams that the opponent might have to ban. So he's going to be functioning as a really good support unit with this Inborn Idealism, and his offense is also going to be really good with the Fury War Sword and his amazing base stats. Young Eliwood's base kit is already pretty good, so you just need to run Blade Session and Reposition and you should be fine. But if you want to take a more supportive route, then you can definitely run something like Chill Attack in his slot B and also run Chill Skill in a Sacred Seal. So this is going to be helping you just support your ally that is going to be getting the bonus doubler status as well as the Null Panic from Inborn Idealism. And you can also use them in Aether Raids offense as a Ruse unit. So Ruse skill in the slot B is going to be helping you get the guard effect on the enemy, which is really amazing along with the debuffs that you can do. And you can also just boost up the other stat which you're going to be missing in Inborn Idealism for the buff with a rally skill that does have resistance. So that could be done, and he could be used as a more supportive unit just like Legendary Eliwood is used. Young Rebecca is the 4-star focus unit of this banner, and she's a colorless infantry archer with Gusty Warbow as her preferred weapon. So this does give her -1 special cooldown and also effective damage against beast units, which is definitely pretty good because we do have some beast units like Fomortis for example, which are going to be present in the metagame. And if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she's able to get the Time Pulse effect and also +5 to all of her stats, and she can get the damage reduction depending on the kind of foe that she's facing. So if she's facing a ranged, beast, flying, or cavalry foe, then she's going to be getting 60% damage reduction on their first attack, and if the foe is none of those, then she's going to be able to get 30% damage reduction at the very least from foe's first attack. So that is going to be good for her survival, and the damage reduction is definitely helpful. And then finally, she's also able to get +7 true damage whenever her special triggers, and it's not really all that hard for her special to trigger when you do have Time Pulse built into her weapon. So Moonbow is going to be pre-charged at start of every turn, and this can actually be stacked up with Time Pulse and Quicken Pulse for other specials to be pre-charged. So you can also do that, and it can definitely be done with her base attack of 44 and base speed of 45, which does make her a pretty good offensive archer. And she does have attack speed finish 3 at 5-star, which is going to be helping you fodder off the tier 4 version of the finish skill, along with some other premium skills. So she's also really good as a fodder, and she also has null follow-up, which is available at 4-star. So Young Rebecca overall is going to be a pretty solid demote unit, honestly, with this kind of weapon and also with the fodder that she provides. For building up Rebecca on a budget, you can definitely give her Speed Smoke as the Slotsy skill and Blade Session as the Sacred Seal. But if you're going to be investing a bit more into her, then she definitely appreciates the tier 4 version of the finish skill herself. And by running Time Pulse, you can basically have a pre-charged Deadeye, which is really good. So that's definitely an option for piercing through the damage reduction and stacking up the Time Pulse built into her weapon with a Slotsy skill. Null Follow-Up is a pretty good Slotsy skill, but it can definitely be swapped out for Special Spiral 4 that could be run with a 2 cooldown special like Luna. So you can pretty much get the damage reduction piercing from Special Spiral instead of running Deadeye. So that's also an option, and you can run something else in her Slotsy instead of running Time Pulse. So attack speed Oath 4 from the Divine Codes is definitely going to be a pretty good offensive option that you can run in her Slotsy, which also enables the teleportation. And you can also use her with Remote Sparrow and stack up the damage reduction from her weapon so that she can have amazing survival in the player phase. So it's also an option with Blade Session Sacred Seal for a more player phase build. And then finally, a really premium build with attack speed Hexblade is also something that you can run on Rebecca with Ruptured Sky as the special. So attack speed Hexblade is going to be able to give you the adaptive damage, and the adaptive damage should never be underestimated because it can really help you in the matchups where the tanks have polarized bulk, and this can definitely help her get past a lot of units who have high defense but not that high of a resistance. So this kind of premium build is also possible on a max investment Young Rebecca. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to build up any of these units, and if you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Armored Beacon is for the melee matchups. So with that, still see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.